June 15, 2022, Broken Leaf Farm. So we've had a few things in the last few weeks, actually months, since I took the first video. It was before we had moved in, things were in flux. The neighbors were having a party that day, and I had a lot of dreams, but not much other than enthusiasm to go on. Well, there's been a little bit of work that's happened since then, and so I'm going to give you an update on what's been going on. If you look around, you'll see tons of stuff that needs to be done. That's because I'm working on about 8 different things at one time. Additionally, the majority of my time has been occupied with doing rehab on the house. So the time that I've had here in the yard, for the most part, has been stolen from time that should have been put to good use working inside the house. But the house is together now, for the most part. It's not done. And now I get to have a little bit more time to work in the yard. So I started out with this circle garden here. And well, here in the front, starting, was the elephant ears, which I found back in the alley in the back, in the ditch, and I dug them up and brought them here to the front yard. Behind that, I planted a half circle of lemongrass. And here's a Florida native mahuli grass that has big plumes, seed plumes that turn several shades during the course of the course. Here's a guava tree, and then I've planted behind my circle of lemongrass. I've planted these are cranberry hibiscus. They're small yet. They're growing. And cranberry hibiscus leaves are delicious. They have a very bright citrus flavor. They are wonderful to eat. And then I continued the half circle around here in the back with pigeon peas. They're not doing spectacularly yet, but I'm giving them time. Now, I've got the pigeon peas, for the most part, they're sort of in, and at this point, I'm enlarging the bed here to include the pigeon peas and the cranberry hibiscus. The sable palm is nearly out. I dug a little bit on it, tried to pull on it with a chain, didn't budge much, so I need to do some more digging to get that out. Back here I have 2 moringa trees. Moringa is considered to be a medicine food. It's extremely high density protein and vegetables, vitamins, variety of, well, just, it's used quite extensively in third world countries. They're bringing it in to use as a starvation preventative. It's not a lot of fun to eat. If the leaves are extremely fresh and young, they taste peanutty. But after they've been on the tree for a very short while, they get horseradish flavor to them, and they will burn you up. But everything on the tree, the seed pods are huge. They're edible. The flowers are edible. The bark is everything. The whole tree is edible. Here's a Meyer lemon tree. I'm concerned with citrus greening, so I'm not really enthusiastic about putting citrus trees in the yard, but Marlene wants one, so here we go. Now, here's a mess that needs to be addressed. This is my banana circle. This is a dwarf Puerto Rican, I think, plantain. This is a rose banana. This is a Namwa banana, dwarf Namwa. And this is a Cavendish. Of these varieties, the one that you would know about is the Cavendish, because it's what they sell in the grocery stores, Cavendish bananas. Underneath all this grass, there's some sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes just love it here. Now this circle is designed, you just put all kinds of anything that's biomass in it, and it breaks down, and the bananas go and find, there's the sweet potatoes. The bananas will go and find it. There's also a crater there that this is all piled into, so it draws water in. There's more sweet potato vines. I need to cut the grass. There's so much unfinished business here because I'm doing 18 things at a time. Yesterday I went out and bought, this is a papaya. I will be putting it in my banana circle. It belongs over here with the bananas. Bananas, papayas, sweet potatoes are particularly good friends. There's several others, but those are three that are well known to go together. Back here I've started sheet mulching. Sheet mulching is where you discover sheet mulch all over the ground. This is my third house in a row that when I moved in I said I'm going to landscape my lawn out of existence. And I've been fairly successful. Not 100%. But you just pour tons of mulch. This is shredded tree. When the tree trimmers go around, they use their chipper. They just shred it all up, and then they pay a lot of money to get rid of it. I just said bring it over and dump it in my front yard, and that's the big pile that you saw in the front. This is what was in the front last week. So I've got a lot of work yet cut out for me. Over here is my coconut corner. So this is the coconut I bought at Home Depot. It's doing fine. I also, underneath those weeds, there's another coconut, just a nut that I planted. There's another nut that I planted, just imagining if they might sprout. And just this week I bought this one. This is a Malayan dwarf coconut. Typical coconut takes 7, 8, 10 years to begin to really produce, and it may be 15 years old before it really goes into full production. And then it'll produce for another 40, 50 years, but it takes a long time to get started. The Malayan dwarf starts at about 3 to 5 years, so I'm expecting a much sooner production of coconuts from that. The sable palm that I'm hiding them under right now is going to come down, just come on the front. I just haven't gotten to it yet. This is a sweet sop, and I'm sorry if you don't know what it is, because you're missing out on one of the most amazing fruits in the tropics. This is a jaboticaba, also known as a Brazilian grape tree. It has fruit that's stuck to the trunk and lower branches of the tree, right on the branches, mainly on the trunk. They look like large grapes. Taste like grapes, look like grapes. This is a jackfruit tree. This will probably be producing some enormous jackfruit in 2 to 3 years. Largest fruiting tree in the world. This is another sour sop. It's in the family Annona. If you live in the islands, it's your favorite fruit. This is a related Annona. This is called a sugar apple, or the Jamaicans call it a sweet sop. It's probably my favorite. And I think it actually has a couple flowers on it. They will bloom and bear fruit at a young age. This is a Brogden avocado, which is a late summer. It's very similar to a Hass avocado, which is the black avocados in California. This is a blueberry bush. Blueberries bear fruit in January, March here. Another blueberry bush. I just put these in very recently. This is a sapodilla. It can grow large. It looks like an enormous tree with potatoes hanging all over it. It bears several crops a year, well, 3 crops a year. and it's just, the thing is hung with potatoes. The potatoes, you cut them open and they taste like, they're very similar to a very mild pear with brown sugar. This is a canistel, also called an egg fruit. It has a fruit that is sort of like a sweet, well, a cross between a sweet potato, pumpkin, squash, all those. It's a little bit starchy, and it's very sweet. It's very, well, I don't know if it's very sweet, but it's sweet. Anyway, people love those. Another sweet sop. Does it sound like, no, I mean, this is sour sop. Sounds like I'm on kind of a broken record here. Partly because there's a little bit of question about the pollination. And I figured I'd increase my chances if I had 3 of them back here instead of just 1 or 2. Here's my little, well, it's an Everglade tomato. I mean, it's what it's acting like. It's growing like a weed and producing fruit like there's no tomorrow. That's the way that compatible tropical tomatoes do. It's giving me about a handful of cherry tomatoes every single day. Here's a fig. And here's the cherry tomatoes that aren't made for the tropics. And they're getting just as much water and just as much attention, but they're just shriveling under this extreme brilliance of the sun. The sun really is much more intense the closer you get to the equator. Here's my, this is an embarrassment, here's my bean patch. These are yard-long beans. I'll show you one just for fun. I'll show you a handful of them here. These are kind of playing out. They're not really doing very well. They should be bigger and fatter and longer than that. They're huge. There's my macadamia tree. And there's my buck number 3 avocado. This is an avocado that is very unusual, that it's still, that it's a spring fruiting avocado, and yet it has the same richness as a summer or fall. Usually the early seasons have larger, watery, less fatty avocados. So this one's unusual. It's supposed to produce a very high fat, not watery. Here's a question that I had before. I had this ditch behind my house, and if you're familiar with how property lines normally run, usually in front of your house, you've got, well, at our old house, we had about 3 foot of lawn that didn't belong to us. Well, I mean, starting from the street, the curb didn't belong to us. The sidewalk, tree lawn, about 3 feet of the front yard did not belong to the property owner, but you're still responsible for taking care of it. Likewise, here in the back, the gully here, the ditch, it's not my property. I'm not paying taxes on it, but I do have to maintain it. It's my responsibility. So I got a 20-foot wide patch of grass that I have to maintain. And then there's this fence, which I am told that my predecessors, those who lived here before us, paid for. So it's my fence. And then on the other side of my fence is, well, you see high power lines. And so the utility company owns that land. And there's an unnamed road right here that almost never sees anybody on it. I don't think anybody really cares about maintaining this another 10, 12, 15 feet from between the road and the fence. And so I've started to go back there to mow. I'm going to take care of that, and I'm going to start putting fruit and vegetables on the other side of the fence. Now, it's inconvenient to get to the other side of the fence. I have to drive about 2 miles. But it's going to be I'm going to treat it as though it's mine until somebody tells me otherwise. Here's some more elephant ears that sprouted where I dug up the ones in the front yard. And now here's an interesting story. There are wild yams that grow here, invasive, some of them. On the side of that sable palm, there's a large leafed It's a heart-shaped leaf vine growing up into the tree. That's called Dioscorea bulbifera. It is a yam that is eaten widely, particularly in the Far East, and it's a staple food, except for the fact that if you don't cook it right, it'll kill you. So we're not particularly excited about harvesting that. However, there's this other one in here, which is almost the same, but not really. And it has the skinny leaf and a square stem that's growing out here. I was particularly delighted to find it growing wild. And there's another one down here, and that is Dioscorea alata, which is very prolific and should grow but not as big as the bulbifera, but it still should grow big, and it should produce a lot of food, and it's good to eat. And it has it's an air potato. So there are potatoes, they look like spuds that form on the vines and drop. So you can just go out and pick potatoes off the vine, boil them up, fry them, bake them, whatever you want to do. Now, since I'm taking this space as my own, I put it's not a grape, it's it's like a grape. I put that up. It's oh, come on, I know the name of this. It's not a grape, it's muscadine. It's a southern variety of sort of a relative of a grape. I want some raisins. And here's a blackberry vine that I planted here. It needs to be cleaned up. There's a lot of weeds out here. And here's my other alata vine growing up. That's my lunch coming up. Wait, no, that's the third one. Here's the second one. Well, looky there. Okay, so we got food. All right. And these are not doing very well at all. They said that the Seminole pumpkins climb oak trees. They just don't seem to be trying very hard at all. I've planted 9 of these around here, and they're just acting as though me not weeding has been a serious problem. They're trying to convince me that they need to be weeded, but I'm not having much pity on them. They're blooming, but it's not setting any fruit. And they just don't look like them. I just need more time to take care of my plants the way they deserve to be cared for. This is a miracle fruit, this crazy thing. You eat the berry, munch on it real good. The juice from the berry will desensitize your mouth to tart and, to sour and bitter foods. So you can eat a lemon and it tastes like candy. I'm thinking I might use it as a way to eat sugar-free smoothies in the summertime. Eat one of those, and then their smoothies all taste like they're heavily sweetened without any sugar. This is a mulberry tree. This is called a Pakistani mulberry. It has berries that are about 3 inches long on them. They're enormous and exceptionally sweet. The neighbors Suriname cherry finally fruited. This poor thing looks like it needs a lot of help. I think it just needs a heavy trim. There's fruit all over the ground. It's not that great. I mean, it's edible, but not that great. And then Marlene found this for me. This isn't where it's going to stay, but I've already enjoyed it. This is a Jamaican cherry, aka strawberry tree, and it just bears Jamaican cherries all the time. Extremely fast growing tree. I hope I can keep up with it. This is an ice cream bean tree. It produces large beans. You break them open, and the individual beans are encased in cotton candy. This is sugarcane. This is somebody else's discards. Put them in pots. There's a prickly pear cactus and a whole bunch of pineapple. Once those produce fruit, once they get to the age, they'll give about one pineapple a year, and then they will also put out pups to increase the family size. And then these are sweet potatoes. You just stick them halfway buried in the ground, wait a very short time, and the thing just springs to life. And each of these vines, you just snap them off, poke them in the ground, and they'll take off. There's enough strength within just a little vine to be able to root and to start bearing fruit. Wild sweet potatoes and yams grow crazy here. This is my Jamaican cherry. Wish these stuff would hurry up and get big, because of all of the rave reviews everybody gives to all these fabulous things. And I built a shower enclosure. It's not very welcoming right at the moment, and the garden hose is kind of in the way, but it has allowed me to take a couple of cold water showers in here. And that is shampoo ginger. It looks like down at the bottom there's a flower stalk getting ready to present itself, and when that comes up, it'll have a bright red, looks like a large pine cone, and it's soft and it's squishy and it's full of goo. So you just squeeze the thing a little bit and the goo comes out in your hand, and you can use it as a shampoo or body wash or whatever you want to use it. People love it. It smells amazing. I've never smelled it. I've never seen it. You can check. Paul Mitchell has acreage in Hawaii where he grows this stuff for his hair care products. Here's my big nursery. So this is beautyberry I got from a couple of cuttings. And then there's 2 black sapotes, an empty pot where something didn't survive. And then here's 3 cherimoyas and 1 soursop. Cherimoya is a relative of soursop. They're known as, again, the most beloved fruit in the islands. Here's my sisu spinach. It's delicious. Grows year-round. And here's katak. This is also a green that you can eat. The sisu spinach tastes like spinach. The katak has a very nutty flavor. It's very tasty, actually. And then here's my little nursery. Now I've called this Broken Leaf Farm. Okay, there's 4 more sourosops coming up. An Adamoya I'm waiting on. Something that failed. And these little ones, Broken Leaf Farm. Well, guess what? I accidentally busted a branch off of my sisu spinach. So you stick the pieces in the ground. Those should all root. This is the kind of stuff that I dig out of my yard. Just raking the yard, digging holes for fence posts. And this is this kind of stuff that comes out of it. I found some cheap orchids. In time, they'll all be stuck in the trees or hanging on fences. They love it year-round. They just kind of hang out and enjoy the climate. You don't have to do anything to them. You just hang them in the tree, leave them. I've planted another row of pigeon pea along here, like I do around the backside of that, and I also put another row of pigeon pea. Can't hardly see it because it's barely taller than the weeds that surround it, along here, just to give a little bit of structure to my yard. The trailer normally doesn't get pulled in forward. The issue was when we were moving onto the property, we wanted to be able to come out the door and go straight into the house. So that's how that all turned out, like that. Now we finally moved out of the trailer into the house. We lived in the trailer for 9 months. So we haven't completely cleaned it out, but once it's cleaned out, then I'll pull it out and turn it and back it into the corner back there where it should have been in the first place if we weren't living in it. And here's my big pile of mulch. You might be able to see where there's a dark area here, an outline around the area. That's how much mulch I shoveled out today. The pile did come out all the way out to here. So I'm probably at about 70% of it used. So a little bit's been done around here. A whole lot's been done inside the house. I have a long, long, long way to go before things... Will it ever be finished? I don't know. It looks a little bit more like what I originally envisioned than I actually thought might. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Stay tuned.